Chapter 1, Introduction and Background. Welcome, and thank you for joining me on this journey into the world of No Rules Rules, Netflix, and the Culture of Reinvention, written by Reed Hastings, the co-founder of Netflix, and Aaron Meyer, a professor at INSEAD. This is not just a book about a company. It is a story about how Netflix reinvented the way organizations think about people, culture, and innovation. When you think of Netflix today, you probably picture a global giant, streaming shows and films in more than 190 countries, with hundreds of millions of subscribers. But rewind to the late 1990s, and Netflix was a very different company. At that time, it was just a small startup, renting DVDs by mail in competition with giants like Blockbuster. Few people thought it could survive, let alone thrive. So how did Netflix not only survive, but also disrupt the entertainment industry and change the way the entire world consumes content? According to Reed Hastings, the answer lies not just in strategy or technology, but in something deeper, the culture of the company. This culture is unusual. In fact, it is radically different from what most companies practice. Instead of rules and policies, Netflix relies on freedom and responsibility. Instead of job security, it emphasizes talent density. Instead of avoiding conflict, it insists on candor, open and direct feedback at every level. And this is where the book begins, by explaining why Netflix built such an unconventional culture and why it works. Let me paint the picture. In the early 2000s, after the dot-com bubble burst, Netflix was struggling. Reed Hastings had to make painful decisions, including laying off a third of the staff. It was a hard moment, but it led to a surprising discovery. With fewer people, but the very best remaining employees, Netflix actually became more productive, more creative, and more successful. This was the seed of what Hastings later called talent density, the idea that a small group of outstanding people can outperform a much larger team filled with average performers. From that point forward, Netflix embraced a philosophy: hire the best, pay them top of market, and remove anyone who isn't a star. It may sound harsh, but it creates an environment where high performers thrive. But there was another problem. Even with talent, how do you make sure people are aligned? Traditional companies solve this with processes, rules, and approvals, but rules slow people down. So Netflix went the opposite way. It removed rules. No vacation policy, no expense policy, no approvals for decisions. At first, this sounds crazy. How can a company run without rules? Wouldn't employees take advantage? But Hastings discovered that when you combine talent density with freedom and responsibility, people don't abuse the system. They rise to the challenge. The book, No Rules Rules, is about how Netflix refined these ideas, tested them, expanded them globally, and built a culture that allows the company to constantly reinvent itself. It's also about the paradoxes: giving employees freedom, but expecting extreme responsibility; paying people more, but also firing faster when they don't fit; encouraging risk-taking, even though some risks will fail; practicing candor, even when it feels uncomfortable. In this first chapter, Hastings and Meyer set the stage. If you want to build a company that can keep innovating, you can't rely on rules to control people. You must instead rely on people to control themselves, but only if you've built a team worthy of that trust. This is the foundation of the Netflix culture, and in the next chapters, we'll dive